A very good evening to you. Welcome to another Newsmaker Live broadcast on DBS Television with me, Timothy Paulion. We go up until 10 o'clock this evening, at which time we'll be concluding with the clip that peaked, and you don't want to miss that. Well, over the last few weeks, there's been some major political developments occurring in St. Lucia, pitting the opposition St. Lucia Labour Party against the governing United Workers' Party, and there's been no shortage of drama on the island. Whether it was a walkout in the Parliament of St. Lucia as a result of the decision taken by the Speaker of the House of Assembly to remove a motion from the order paper. We're looking at also the DSH project, a very controversial initiative, and still the non-appointment of a deputy speaker. So we're hearing from the side of the opposition St. Lucia Labour Party, and no better an individual than the political leader to state the position of the SLP and to engage you a bit later. I'm referring there to my guest. He's also the MP for Castries East, Mr. Philip J. Pierre, former Deputy Prime Minister of St. Lucia. Welcome to the program, sir.
Hi, Tim. Good night, and thanks for having me. Good night to listeners.
Congratulations on your appointment as leader of the St. Lucia Labour Party as of October of 2016, and subsequently, of course, leader of the parliamentary opposition.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Were you always looking forward to this position? Because I
wasn't looking forward.
I think many of us in the media were always asking you, do you have any ambition to become the political leader of the SLP? And I think you always did a good job of sidestepping that question or dodging it.
Well, I'm very happy to be the leader, not the opposition leader. I would have preferred to be the political leader than something else.
Why not the opposition leader?
Well, you know, when you are in politics and you want to make a contribution in our system, the only way you can make a meaningful contribution is by being in government. It's a very sad situation, but that's how it is. You've got to be in government to do what you want. If you have a vision for the country, you've got to be in government to pursue it. And being in opposition, you could only talk the vision, but to pursue it, to put meat to that vision, you've got to be in government.
When are we going to create that difference, make that change so that we move away from the system of the winner takes all?
Well, I'm glad you said the winner takes all, because this is something I've been saying very often, both in government and in opposition, actually. You see, if our parliamentary system was more equal, right, I'm sure a lot of the animosity, a lot of the problems would have been less. I'll tell you something. If every MP was given the opportunity to be an MP, to do things for his constituency, to see about the priorities of his constituency, for his constituency, his own space where people elected him to, and the MP was given some level of resources to do that, the country now would debate issues, would debate policies. So the issue of liquor walls and liquor footpaths, that would not be in the national debates. But so every MP would have been able to do something for his constituency, to see about the needs of his constituency, and then you would feel empowered as an MP. You would feel that you could do something for your country, and national government would deal with the big things, the roads, the schools, the health, education, social policy. But the local issues can be dealt with by MP. In our system, I'll tell you something. I've been a parliamentary representative for Castries East from 1997. Tomorrow morning, I can't get a drain cleaned in my constituency. I, as MP, cannot get a drain cleaned in my constituency. I cannot get a blade of grass cut on the side of the road as the parliamentary representative for the constituency.
But don't you think, sir, you had an opportunity to change that?
Yes, we did.
Because you've been the government minister for so long.
We did.
Because you had the 16-1 majority in 1997, which I'm sure you
of course
could have utilized.
And we started the issue or the idea of constituency offices. I mean, you may have known that the parliamentary representative for Castries East, Roman Zanzigo, he saw people from a rum shop, a fellow called Mentor. You may should recall that.
About changing the system, changing the constitution, the constitution, changing the constitution.
The constitution,
making some major changes.
Let's deal with the role of the MP in the first instance. So we gave the MP some level of empowerment. He had an office, he had staff, albeit very small. when the issue relating to bursaries and bursaries for children to go to school, some sort of help, we gave MPs a quota. When the issue came up recently, the CDP, each MP had a quota of thing. The STEP program, each MP had a quota. So you see, it was a work in progress. I agree. More could have been done.
But why politicians keep saying work in progress when they could have taken drastic decisions, radical decisions to effect meaningful change?
Because it always is a work in progress. Because you moving towards a particular role, a particular direction, and it takes time. You understand? But you can tell you something. We can sit here and we can bemoan the fact that former governments did not do it. We can do it. All of us can do that. But the thing is, we have to evolve and we have to change. And if you look at the way the country is going now, we have to change, because the winner takes all will not work. The winner takes all has not worked, and it's only going to get worse because the situation is getting more complex.
So, but neither party is beyond fault on this issue, whether it's the Central Labour Party or the United Workers Party.
Our party began a process which we could have brought further, but we began a process. And what's happening now, I tell you something, what's happening now is the process has to be continued. But you cannot always go back in the past and say somebody did not do it. The people of St. Lucia voted for change when they voted for us, and they voted us out. So they voted for change now. And we saying, when you sit back and you look at the situation, it cannot be as it is now. And now it's become even more complex. Because what has happened is that MPs or parliamentarians who have won their seats have found themselves being shadowed by people who have not won their seats. In our case, all these people are made ministers, and they're given all the resources for the constituency. So it has got even worse. Because when you run election against somebody and you beat them, they're given resources. They have the state institutions at their hand, and they're in the constituency doing things for the constituency. So it's got worse.
Again, I'm saying that you were in a position to change this.
But in our time, when
you had the 16-1, when you had the 14-3 in 2001, realizing that situation, I'm sure that you could have effected the change. You came back in 2011.
Yeah.
Shouldn't you have effected that necessary change to prevent those practices?
And I'm saying to you, we began a process which we hope the government should continue. But what the government has done is they've rolled it back. They've made it worse.
But you always find this thing happening where the opposition MPs always complain about how they're treated. Mr. Guy Joseph of Castries Southeast, during the reign of the previous SLP administration, he had the same concern and he made the same complaints.
What you must do is these things. You must make a fact check. FACTCHECK, and you see whether what politicians say is true. You must create a fact check. You must not listen to what, because a particular MP says something. You must find out whether it's true. And if you check it out, you may see in many cases what was said. And I don't want to get into casting aspersions upon people's names. It's not true.
What about the setting up of those, I think, those community groups that were set up to undertake projects in the various constituencies?
Community groups like...
And again, I'm making reference to Castries Southeast, where I think you had certain individuals who were part of those committees that were organized, and the then MP was saying that he was not consulted as to the composition of those various groups. I think it's councils.
Well, the constituency councils, they have in the constitution, the MP for the area can appoint one representative. So again, that's not true. Because in the law says that in the composition of the constituency council, the sitting MP can have one representative. I have a representative in the council. Ernest here has a representative in the council. So that isn't true.
When do you think the bickering will end, particularly after a general election, whether it's the SLP that has won the election or the United Workers Party, so that the work of the country can proceed without it being partisan?
I'll tell you what. It's left to the government The government has a responsibility to govern the country, and the opposition has a responsibility to help the government, if the government allows it to, run the country properly. When you have a situation where as soon as the government gets into power, it goes on a rampage of victimization, of vindictiveness, of exclusion, etc. You see, people feel that once they are out of government, or the parties out of power, they are victimized.
Is the SLP beyond fault on this issue?
The SLP is, what the SLP is saying is that it's the responsibility of a government to cause that situation not to happen. And I'll give you an example. In the NICE program, the NICE program was stopped. Okay? Many excuses were made for the NICE program, for the stopping of the NICE program. They reinstated the home care program. In the home care program, they fired and they used a common percentage. 90% of the people in the home care program were sent home and were replaced.
You said fired. Wasn't the case that the contracts were not renewed?
Okay, if better yet.
Because you said fired.
If you understand that,
let's deal with the specifics.
If you want to say that,
let's use the right language.
I will agree with you. The contracts were not renewed. They were no longer employed.
Their contracts were not renewed.
They were no longer employed. They lost the means of employment, and in a month they got no salary. They will get no salary. And these people were replaced. These people were trained over a period of time. It didn't just happen. They were trained. They got paramedical training, how to give insulin, how to give tablets. And these people were replaced. And it's true, 90% of them were replaced. In my constituency, only 2 people were kept. Now, you never know who somebody votes for, but you have a pretty good idea when you are a parliamentary rep. And I will not tell you. I won't go into that because I don't want to get into the 90%. I will not tell you what the people who their contracts were not renewed, if you're comfortable with that. I won't tell you what it was perceived, who it was perceived that they supported. Now, is that right?
Is it also right?
No, is that right?
But is it also right that several years ago, then Prime Minister Kenny Anthony, addressing NICE workers at the Castries Comprehensive Secondary School, saying, call the various talk shows and agitate and support your party, support your government. Wasn't he saying then that I recognize you as supporters of the Senatorial Labour Party, and that's why you got the jobs in the first place?
I don't want to get into speaking for Kenya.
No, but
I think Dr.
Again, you asked me to fact check. That is a fact.
What I'm saying
he made that point.
Is that what?
But do you recall he making that point? Do you recall Dr. Anthony making that point?
I remember him saying to ask him to support, because what Dr. Anthony was saying is that we were under pressure for the program. People were saying it's a waste of money. Just as a STEP program, people were saying it's a waste of money. People were saying, why are you wasting money with these people? So what Dr. Anthony was saying is that try to whip public support for the program. I don't think he was saying that you were Labour or UWP. But I'll tell you something. There is no way, and if you speak to people on the ground, they will tell you that the political persuasion of many of the NICE workers was not what people think it was.
But again,
it was not. But people are going. But what Dr. Anthony was saying is that he wants the public to support the program, because you will have yourself, many journalists are saying STEP is a waste of time and wasting money and things. So he was saying, listen, try to advocate for the program to continue. That's how it can be.
You said earlier on that opposition politicians, MPs in particular, have a difficult time in terms of getting things done in their constituencies. Also, by extension, don't you think that once they get into office, then they have a lot of power and they leverage that power in terms of selecting who they want on the various programs? And that was the case. Let's put it this way. I'm presenting to you that was the case with the NICE program. The Senatorial Labour Party was in office and the MPs had carte blanche to go out and select the people they wanted. And those people invariably were supporters of the Senatorial Labour Party.
I don't know that. The same way I will not tell you that the people they replaced, the people that are replacing those they didn't renew their contracts as supporters of any party. I don't know that.
You don't know that?
I don't know that. But what I can tell you is that as 90% of them were replaced. In my constituency, only 2 of them remained. So, but that's a fact.
So we shouldn't be arguing anything at all on that basis.
No. What I'm saying to you?
You're replaced with Sanusians.
Right, exactly. So that's why there was a political fallout when 90% of the people, because 90% of the people were SAP supporters, because there were solutions. The 90%, even though the SAP supporters are not, were solutions, and they ought not to be left to cry.
But in that case, again, I have to hack back to this, and that is the contracts were not renewed. But is there anything to say that the NICE workers, their contracts automatically had to be renewed?
That the fact is, we talk about semantics about a contract. They are not working,
no, it's whether,
and they have their families
whether there's
to feed.
We have to agree whether there's a
but
contract.
But the same contracts were renewed for 5 years. It was here before. It could be renewed again.
And it doesn't mean automatically your contract will be renewed.
No, what you see,
the same way if you have a contract with the people of St. Lucia over a 5-year period does not mean that automatically you will be re-elected.
Timothy, when it comes to people's daily bread, we must not, with due respect, I don't think we should play with contracts and not renewed. The fact is, there are 1,200 people out there who were working in the middle of March, and they're not working. They have loans, they have children going to school, they have commitments, and they cannot meet it. So the semantics of contracts not being renewed is irrelevant. What I'm saying, the NICE program was a direct intervention in the market, in the labor market, to help the unemployment situation. That's a fact. Whether it was labor or UWP, these people were working to support themselves and their families. When they're not working, somebody suffers, and they're suffering. So the semantics don't really matter.
It's not about semantics, about the facts.
The fact so therefore, they're not working.
Do you think the government erred in giving those people contracts in the first place and not saying you are working as permanent workers, employees of the government?
Because you must understand the NICE program was a direct economic tool. It is an economic and social tool to alleviate the unemployment situation at the time. The thinking is that as soon as the economy would have got better, there'll be a natural transition from these people into other jobs. That was the thing. It happened. It's a tool that economists use to generate employment, and by extension to generate some level of activity in the economy. The same argument we're using for the STEP program. Same argument we use. That's what it was. So the contract was, you work for 1 year, right? You're evaluated, and then if you do well, you renewed for the year. That's basically what it was.
You say about economists are coming up with such initiatives basically to reduce on the unemployment burden that we have been experiencing in St. Lucia over the last several years. Do you think it makes economic sense, therefore, to go out there and borrow money and invest in an initiative where the returns are minimal, are insignificant?
All right.
Where is the money coming from? Because we're facing a serious problems now with borrowing and debt, and also high interest on those debts. Okay. Who will pay it?
All right. Civil servants are being paid by taxpayers. Agree? Good. Now, what do you prefer? Social disruption, massive unemployment, more crime, more prostitution, more illegal drugs, or the government as a temporary basis interfering in the market economy to create employment? Which one is better?
But invariably, initiatives that are taken by government on that basis of borrowing and so on becomes permanent. That is why right now we have this seemingly permanent problem of high debt, which dates back to several decades now. So when will it end?
Okay, you must look
It started with Sir John Compton, went on with Dr. Kenny Anthony, Prime Minister Stephenson King, back again with Dr. Kenny Anthony. And when will it end? When will the borrowing end?
The issue of debt, according to you, has been there from time immemorial. The United States is one of the world's highest indebted nations. What's the problem is your ability to repay. You see, and I'm glad you're going there. Because where you're going, is where I want.
What is our ability?
So I want you to lead.
What is our ability to repay?
Our ability to is based basically on two things: expansion of the economy and collection of revenue.
When was the last time we expanded the St. Lucian economy?
The St. Lucian
With our
economy,
economy expected to grow by what, 0.5%? What kind of growth is that?
I'm saying to you, that is how you get the money to pay back. I tell you something. The government had a revenue stream of 15.5% of VAT. Good? Because of the political promises, they reduced VAT to 12.5%. The impact of that 12.5% has not been felt in anybody's pocket. There is not, you can't find many people in the country who tell you, listen to me, apart from the people who have massive rentals, people who collect massive rentals, they have savings. But the regular person has not felt the benefit of 2.5%. But guess what will happen? Because of the shortfall in revenue, the government taxed travel. Because of the shortfall in revenue, the government will have to tax zero-rated items. They will have to remove items of zero-rated items, which again is an economic tool that you use for social benefit. So you keep the goods that the lower income people use or they consume, you keep it as cheap as possible. But because of ill-directed action, which has been done by the government, they now have, and I bet in the budget that's coming, they must have these revenue increases because the government will have to increase revenue, both for current and for capital expenditure. But that was ill-fated.
Don't you think, sir, that what this government attempted to do is to remedy a problem that was created by the previous administration?
No, it did not. No, it did not. I want to stop you right away. It did not. It did not.
Against the advice of many people, including the St. Lucia Chamber of Commerce.
What advice?
Against the advice of Mr.
What
Jeff
advice?
Stewart,
What
saying
advice?
that you should not increase the VAT from the word go from its implementation at 15%.
No.
Why not set it at a lower rate? That was the argument then.
And what would happen? You had a deficit of 9%. The argument then was in 2011, the country had a deficit of 9%. Greece went to the IMF with a deficit of 9%. Barbados is now in the... You see, I don't think people have understood what the economic management of this of our government, what it did to the country. And I'm glad you go in there. Because you see, figures do not lie. In 2011, the country had a current account deficit of about 9%. When we, in the last budget, 2016 budget, that deficit went down to about 3.4%, and there was a surplus on the current account. Why? For two reasons. The government tightened on expenditure. The government reduced capital expenditure. The government did not, and the government improved its revenue. Without interference by the IMF, without cutting the civil servant salaries, without sending civil servants home, and still having a nice program. So in 2016, the economy had begun to, and with inherited hurricanes, Thomas, and hurricanes in our time. I know the word inherit. We found that the last government had hurricanes also, and in our time. So what did we do? We stabilized the economy, and if you look at all, and the Minister of Finance at the time was very clear. The Labour Party never said that the economy was booming. You know, we said that, listen to me, things are tight. We have to take some harsh measures, like we had to increase licenses to increase revenue. We had to increase licenses. We had to put in a VAT. But still, for that, when we put the VAT in, we did not put VAT on water, no electricity. Neither did we put VAT on essential items. So you could go to the supermarket still and feed your family without paying any VAT. And with these policies, we happened to reduce the deficit to 3.5% in 2016. Now, any country that has had a deficit of 9% and reduced it, they've done two things. They've had a drastic cut in current expenditure, or they've gone to the IMF. So the management of this economy between these years was exemplary.
But St. Lucia is still facing a problem with high debt.
Of course, and St. Lucia it experiencing a problem, right? Because you have, what did the government borrow for? Let's be, and what did the government borrow for? The government borrowed for infrastructure projects that they had to do. The government borrowed for infrastructure. The government borrowed for roads. They borrowed for schools. You may recall when you and I went to school, there were only 2 or 3 secondary schools, and the government had to borrow for the 5 new secondary schools, so every child could go to school. The government had to borrow.
But now a lot of those secondary schools are empty, Mr. Pierre. You know
because that is a demographic function. It's not because, so the government could not know. How could you know that the population of St. Lucia would have come, the school population would have diminished or decreased? You could have known. So in the meantime, while you're waiting for that, you'd have left children out of school. You'd have left children suffering from this dreaded common entrance. Common entrance was almost like it was like a death sentence.
But is it fair to say, Mr. Pierre, that the governments over the last several years have really failed the people of St. Lucia, because the figures are showing that the debt is very high, and there's been low to no economic growth, whether it's been over the last few years, the United Workers' Party,
then you have to say the governments of the world have failed the world. Because the
voters of St. Lucia are not electing the voters of the United States. We are electing the government in St. Lucia.
But the voters,
and they must account to the people.
But the voters of St. Lucia know that they inherited a deficit of 9% and it was reduced to 3.4% at the end of the term. That's a fact.
What is preventing governments from increasing higher growth?
Increasing what?
Increasing higher growth in terms of the 0.5% and so on.
Growth,
especially with the previous administration not recording any growth.
That's not true. And that is not true.
For about 2 or 3 years.
The highest growth in this country over the last 10 years was under the Labour Party. In 2006, there's a 5-6% growth under the Labour Party.
But there were about 2 years.
So this is not
There
true.
was about 2 years of negative
and
growth.
These 2 years came straight after a hurricane. You know, when you look at, you see, let me tell you the problem with the subject of reading. It's facts. They are factors. So you do not just say things. It's factual. When the country began to experience low growth is when there's one action by the government, which is not our government. That's when it began. When there was a spike in current expenditure. Right? And that's when, and if you look at the trend, you will see. But the point I'm making to you is growth cannot be fueled by consumption. Growth is fueled by investment. So consumption does not create growth. Growth is created by investment. Now,
and the governments have demonstrated an inability to pull in those necessary investment that would impact growth.
Because of the situation, the investment climate in the rest of the world. You must understand that investment is a function of return. Nobody invests in the country if they will make a return out of it. So growth, so what the government must do, and for the government to attract investment, the government must put its books in order. And that is why the government of the Labour Party has tried to put its books in order, and investment was coming. You've seen the investment. You've seen the Royalton Hotel is open now. You've seen the hotel on the Pope site is open. You've seen the signs of investment coming back once the government's books are in order. The government's books have to be in order first.
But isn't it the case of creating the enabling environment, which governments have failed to do?
I hear that all the time. First of all, government is not a business. There's
that's why we say creating the enabling environment instead of getting involved in business. Creating the environment for business
is not a business. Which government has given the most incentives in the country? Let me outline to you the enabling environment this government has created. Our government has created for business.
Channeling the incentives in the proper direction. Eh?
Yes. The last one was the Tourism Incentives Act, the Tourism Investment and Incentive Act, right? Channeled straight at the tourism industry. You understand? That was our initiative. The government, at the time, if you may recall, formed a special unit called the Office of Private Sector Relations to get the private sector more involved and to channel investment. So the government has tried its best. The government did Executor. helped in the executor program in customs to make it easier for goods to come from customs. When I was Minister of Tourism of Commerce, I piloted the consumption tax amendment to help industrialists and manufacturers to get an ease on to pay consumption tax not on selling price but on factory price. So these are a lot of things that the government did to generate investment. So it's not fair to say that the government does not create an enabling environment for investment. The government tries, but the returns is what the investor demands, and these things depend on circumstances that are way beyond the control of the government.
You're watching Newsmaker Live right here on DBS Television with my guest, the political leader of the St. Lucia Labour Party, also the parliamentary leader of the opposition, Mr. Philip J. Pierce. Stay with us. Back in a moment. Welcome back. Thank you so much for staying with us. You're watching Newsmaker Live on DBS Television with me, Timothy Paulion, and my guest, Mr. Philip J. Pierre, the leader of the parliamentary opposition. Also has been the MP for Castries East from 1997. So there's a famous, or if you want to call it infamous, walkout on the part of opposition MPs, which took place on the 4th of this month. We've been hearing about this as a result of the decision taken by the Speaker of the House of Assembly to remove from the order paper a negative motion that was supposed to be presented by the MP for Castries South, Dr. Ernest Hilaire. Why not stay and fight it out in the Parliament of St. Lucia instead of walking out and not representing the interests of the people?
First of all, there are laws to be obeyed in the country, and things must be done according to the law, and the government must follow procedure. I took a liberty, Tim, to bring for you the process by which motions are put in the House, in the House of Assembly, and to put it to you that the Labour Party did everything right. Dr. Hilaire and the Labour Party did everything right. The House is governed by standing orders, right? Standing orders, House Assembly is governed by. And then on the matter of standing orders, the standing order number 22 speaks to motions. And standing order number 22 speaks to notice of motions, amendments, and manner of giving notices. Standing order number 22 free. And you can, as is in Parliament, you can make a document of the House. Standing 22 free, it says, if the Speaker is of opinion that any notice of motion which has been received by the clerk infringes the provision of any standing order or is in any way out of order, he may direct that the member concerned be informed that the notice of motion is out of order and the notice of motion be entered in the order paper with such alterations as he may direct. So the standing orders gives the Speaker the power to say if a motion is wrong. You agree? Mm-hmm. Standing order number 23. So in that case, the motion passed that rule because the motion was on the order paper. So the Speaker found it fit and proper. Standing order number 23. It speaks to period of notice. Standing order 23.2. Earlier than 6 clear days, the motion was in the Parliament for more than 6 weeks with the Speaker. So it passed that test, 86 days. Standing order number 24. And that is where the arrogance of the government comes into place. That's where the arrogance of the government. That is where, and that's what's dangerous. Standing order number 24, 4. Motions exempted from notice. And 24.4 says, a motion for the amendment of any motion. So that means the Prime Minister could have stood on the day of the motion and asked for an amendment. Standing order number 24.4 speaks to that. Now, standing on, it speaks now, so that means that the Prime Minister could have said, listen to me, Madam Speaker, the motion on the House, on the table, I want it amended for X and Y. Because of X and Y reason. And then there will be a debate on it. And they had the majority, so they would have passed it. So the motion could have either been amended at the time. So the Prime Minister could get whatever he wanted it. Because he had the majority. It is up to us now to agree or not to agree. But he had the majority. Now, standing order number 30. Withdrawal of motions. A motion may be withdrawn by Leader of the House, as the case may be, after it has been moved and before the question is fully put thereon, the mover so requests. Not the Prime Minister, the mover. A motion can only be withdrawn by the mover, not the Prime Minister. The Prime Minister cannot, under the standing orders, withdraw any motion that is not his.
But you seem to be leveling all the blame at the feet of the Prime Minister. Why not target the Speaker of the House? Because fundamentally she's the one who's presiding over the proceedings.
Because the Speaker wrote a letter to the member for Kashisawan saying she's acquiescing to the instructions of the Prime Minister.
Now, you have deemed, the SLP has deemed this to be illegal.
No, come on. We haven't deemed it to be illegal. I have read to you all the requirements for motions, and the motion we had in the House has passed all these tests.
If the action was illegal,
I'm not the one who deemed it.
If the action was illegal, therefore, what is the SLP prepared to do about it?
The SLP has shown that we would not be part of that high-handedness, that dictatorial attitude, and this arrogance of the government, and we refuse to take part in the debate, in the further proceedings of the day, because based on the standing orders, you cannot find, and we've challenged anyone to say that, to find any standing order, any constitution or any book on parliamentary practice that says that the Prime Minister, because he's not comfortable with a motion, can instruct the Speaker to withdraw it.
Why was it so necessary to present this motion in the
Because we thought that the patrimony of St. Lucia was at stake. We thought that the good name of St. Lucia was at stake.
In effect, you were asking for some changes in the citizen by investment.
That's what you're asking for. And the reasons why we're asking for that. Because when we the Labour Party, and then the Prime Minister says all the time, the Labour Party but the CIP. The Labour Party did not bring the CIP how it is now. The legislation, the regulations for the CIP
of 2015.
Right. That's not the same CIP we have now, you know. It's a different CIP.
Yeah, but a new government, why shouldn't the new government have the right to effect those changes to the CIP?
And we say
the government has a mandate.
The government has a right to that, but the opposition also has a right to come to Parliament and argue that this is not, that we not agree with it, and let the government do it by its majority. Why did the government want to stifle debate on the motion? Why? You have the majority, and I'll tell you what, and I'll tell you something. The entire CIP, you know, the Labour Party did not give one citizenship. We did not. All the citizenships that have been given by the United Workers' Party. And you may recall, the reason why the CIP had such a rugged start is because of letters by the then opposition, because of the actions by the then opposition, when they wrote reams of letters, political platform speeches condemning
the letters were addressed to
everybody they could. It went to the local press, the Chamber of Commerce, the international. Everybody who wanted to read, got one. When they condemned the CIP.
So therefore, it's payback time for the government?
No, it's not payback time. What we're saying is that since you've embraced the CIP, embrace it on the terms that were clear, the terms that were approved, and the terms that the IMF, in its 2016 report, said that was a good way to implement the CIP. Here's what the changes the government wants us to make. We're saying that because a passport or our citizenship, we use the word passport loosely, our citizenship is so important, we only will use it as a tool for investment and we'd only give 500 passports per year. Only 500 passports a year. Because we thought 500 citizenships for a year. Because we thought it was a tool for investment. We also said...
But that's your idea. So you've lost the elections and the new government is coming into office. It certainly has its own ideas.
Yeah, but I'll tell you what's the consequences of their own ideas. The consequences of their own ideas means that they probably may offer 9,000 citizenships to one person. That's the consequences. Not because it's not because governments win elections they can do whatever they want. Governments win elections to not do whatever they want, to do whatever is good for the country.
But if in their estimation that's good for the country.
No, but their estimation is not always right. The logic is clear.
No, I'm not saying it's right, but I'm just saying because in your estimation, you're saying have the limit to 500.
Yes.
And in their estimation, they believe that this could serve as a crippling effect.
And we're saying that based on all the facts that's available to us, that is not the right way to go. Because St. Lucia went last in the CIP program. All countries were there before us. So we had the experience and the benefit of other countries. So we could look at what was right, look at what worked and what did not work, and we came out with the best possible combination, which was endorsed by the IMF.
In your estimation?
By the IMF's estimation.
No, but since when the IMF is right on everything?
No, I'm not saying that. But the IMF is an adjudicator on economic policy. And this government will soon learn, as they have learned, that without IMF endorsement, nothing can happen.
The opposition has issued a warning to applicants applying for citizenship in St. Lucia. When the SLP is returned to office, it will demand that all citizens who did not donate the full contribution of US $200,000 be compelled to top up the contribution that they made at the time of becoming citizens. Now, according to Prime Minister Alan Chancellor, this amounts to economic terrorism. Why would the SLP take such a position?
Timothy, I never expected the word terrorism to come from the mouth of the Prime Minister, of any politician again, considering what happened to a former politician who used the word terrorism. And the onslaught.
A former politician or a current politician?
A former Prime Minister. And the onslaught and the attacks. I never thought that a Prime Minister would ever use that word. Ever. And then there would have been such a maze of silence over the word. When the context was completely different. The former Prime Minister was what you say stomping on the market steps. This Prime Minister was in a controlled environment.
But rhetoric is rhetoric in any environment.
That Prime Minister was in a controlled environment. Deliberately, he used the word, and there's been silence all over, except from our party.
So you expect the deportment of politicians to vary depending on where they
I am saying
from which platform?
I am saying that when the word is a word, one Prime Minister got attacked and he even apologized.
Sort of.
He apologized.
Sort of apologized.
He apologized
anyway.
for using that. But this Prime Minister, because we are speaking about our passports, our citizenship, our security, because we're speaking about what protection do you have? What measures do you have in place when you have given a guarantee to someone?
What signal are you sending to people who want to?
The only signal we're sending is if you have nothing to be afraid of, you have nothing to fear. But if you are above board, if you are a genuine investor, if you are above board, you're a genuine investor, you want to come to make a contribution to our country and enjoy our country, you have nothing to fear.
But according to the regulations, any St. Lucia Labour Party administration cannot just automatically decide to revoke somebody's citizenship under the CIP.
What the St. Lucia Labour Party will do is we are going to look into, with a fine-tooth comb, only citizenship that was awarded by the United West Party.
Because such a citizen his citizenship has been revoked, that person can challenge it before the courts.
We are going to review it and look at it and see if proper due diligence has happened and everything in place. All again.
Because the CIP office on April 11th issued a press release on that issue.
And we agree
saying that the CIP may be revoked subject only to the provisions of Section 38(1) of the CIP number 14 of 2015. 1. such registration as a citizen was obtained by false representation of fraud or willful concealment of material facts, or 2, the person has been convicted of an offense, or 3, the person has performed any other act which, within the opinion of the minister, has a potential to bring disrepute to St. Lucia.
And we agree?
So basically,
We agree?
do you think what the amount,
That is
what,
why-
what the
because
SLP is saying is amounting to scaremongering?
The
scare
information
tactics?
that we have, that we have, is that the CIP board is not allowed to do what they ought to do. Because before, listen to me, the DSH agreement guarantees citizenship for 200 people within a due diligence notice time of 45 weeks. That's what that's about. What we're saying is we're saying that you must do this thing correctly.
Is it 35 weeks or 35 days?
45 days, sorry. You know, what we're saying is that you must do it properly and correctly. And under the CIP that we envisage, no Prime Minister could have done that. The project would have to be looked into by the CIP board, the CIP staff. The due diligence would have been done. Then it would go to Cabinet. Cabinet would look at it and approve it. All the names of the people, according to our CIP, who were given citizenship would have to come to Parliament so it will be there for public scrutiny. You understand? Because we always saw the CIP as a means for investment. And that's why all the checks and balances were in place. We never saw it as a thing where anybody could have $100,000 and buy a passport. And that's the difference. And that is why we stand by that. And reputable investors, reputable people seeking citizenship would applaud that move.
But what gives the impression that the government, this current administration, will not engage in the due diligence? Will they not ensure that it is carried out?
But you've seen already, it happened in the DSH agreement. How can a government determine how long due diligence can take place? How can you before determine how long you can take due diligence? What control do you have over the powers that, over the people that perform due diligence? You've determined before. That wasn't how the CIP was conceived, was perceived by us.
But earlier on you said that our CIP, meaning your CIP, don't
Yes.
you think you have your way, the SLP had its way of handling this issue, and this administration has its own
Yeah.
way, and maybe there's an arbiter will have to determine which one is correct, as
No.
opposed to you determining that yours was correct.
Because
And the
facts,
United Workers' Party doing
because
likewise.
the facts have shown that when the other way, there were issues. I was a minister who piloted international financial services in the country. St. Lucia has had no issues because we waited, we came late, and we looked at all the loopholes and the failures of other administrations, and then we blocked. And the same with the CIP. We are the last in the CIP, so we know all the problems and the issues of CIP programs. And that is why our CIP program was so well accepted by the international body. That's just why it was. So the point I'm making to you is, and the government, all right, if these things are so good, why isn't the government afraid to come and debate in the Parliament? Why is the government afraid to come and tell the people of the country why they made the changes? Why? If what you're saying is that these programs were good, that these changes were good, the government did the right thing, and I was just wrong. You have you have some time. You have a motion in Parliament. You come to Parliament and convince the people of the country that, listen to me, the CIP as conceived by the Labour Party was wrong. Here is the new CIP, the new regulations, ours is correct. Why do you stifle debates?
Will the St. Lucia Labour Party seek another opportunity to present that motion
The
to the Parliament?
The Labour Party hasn't got to seek an opportunity. The motion is in the Parliament already. You have to wait and see what the Speaker will do. The motion is
you're at the end of a financial year. Does that mean that come the next financial year that you'll be able to go through the process and present that motion?
We are going to go.
Or you have to resubmit it.
We are going to go according to standing orders, and if we must, we will.
To resubmit it?
Yes. If we must, we will.
You're watching Newsmaker Live on DBS Television. Once again, my guest is the political leader of the opposition St. Lucia Labour Party, Mr. Philip J. Pierre. When we come back, we'll continue the discussion and take your calls. Welcome back. Thank you so much for staying with us. You're watching Newsmaker Live on DBS Television. I'm told by my producer that we have a call. That person has been calling on for a while. Please go ahead with your contribution, caller.
Yeah, good evening, Mr. Pierre, and good evening, Mr. Timothy.
Good evening to you, caller.
Yeah, I would like to say that I'm very disappointed that a lot of the people lose their jobs. That's people that had their children to go to school. They had to send their children to school. They take out the laptop program. They take out all the $500. The other government said they was going to give the people, help the people with their CXCs. This government don't have no social conscience at all. You understand? And the people was waiting for them in the ballot box. I just want you all to say that, to know that. And Mr. Pierre, anytime you are ready to match, we match in with you.
Thank you so much.
Good night.
Thank you so much for calling, ma'am. You're watching a Newsmaker Live on DBS Television. We await another call from my special guest once again, Mr. Philip J. Pierre, former Deputy Prime Minister and political leader of the opposition SLP. Good evening.
Hello.
Hi, good evening to you, ma'am.
Hi. I would like to ask Mr. Pierre a couple of questions.
Go ahead, please.
Right. I want him to tell us, why is it that there was never any knowledge by the Parliament or the people of St. Lucia when Jufali and his family were issued with all these diplomatic passports, and it only came to light when there was a divorce case. I think Mr. Hilaire is one of the last people to complain about issuing of passports, because he knew what he did behind the backs of Parliament and the people of St.
Okay,
Lucia.
caller. I don't know that Dr. Hilaire was involved in this particular issue, the issuance of passports, but go ahead.
I can answer that very easy. Dr. Jufali was given a passport because he was a diplomat. All diplomats are granted passports. The longest serving diplomat in the country was appointed by the United Workers' Party. The longest, I repeat it again, the longest serving diplomat in St. Lucia's current history was appointed by the United Workers' Party.
We have another call.
And so the Jufali was given a passport because he was a diplomat, clear and simple.
Go ahead, please.
Yes, good evening.
Good evening to you, caller.
Yes, good evening. I just want to ask Mr. Philip J. Pierre a question. You see, I've been following that whole back and forth about that nice program. What I've realized, and we St. Lucians are very hypocrites, and I must say that, because the fact is, nice program people are handpicked, and that's the fact, and all of us know that. You cannot go look for a job and say you'll get a job as a nice worker. You must be handpicked by your parliamentary rep.
Hello? Okay, we seem to have lost the caller. Yeah, continue, please.
Yes, so the reality is mostly all, and I agree with when Leonard Spider-Moon to say what he said, mostly all nice program people are politically handpicked. And the same thing is happening right now with the United Workers' Party. You know what I'm saying? They are handpicking people to work as nice workers. It's a fact. It happened in the previous government, and it's happening now. So let us not pretend as though that is something that is strange. That is politics in St. Lucia. You understand? And people, the Labour people was working when Labour in power. Now the Flabo in power, they are looking after the interests of the people. And that's the fact. I'm not saying it's right, but that's just the reality as it exists in St. Lucia. Good night, sir.
Thank you so much for calling. What say you?
Well, the caller says they were handpicked. What I know is that there was an office, there was people applied, there was an application form you had to fill. That's what I know. The caller probably knows more than me. There was an application form that was filled. There were certain criteria that were met, and people were employed. If they were handpicked, I never handpicked anybody. Probably caller knows more than me.
Another call. Good evening. Go ahead with your contribution, caller.
Yeah, good night, team. How are you, team?
Hi, good night to you, sir. Okay.
I'm all right, team. You see, the problem I have with these things...
Okay, there's a feedback, sir. Take care of that for us, please. And then you can continue your contribution. Go ahead, please.
Get that feedback?
Go ahead.
All right. Now, the problem with that, Tim, is when you listen to Mr. Pierre is giving the impression that everything that is done by the Labour Party was perfect. No problem. All right? Mr. Pierre knows very well that the NICE program was a short-lived program. It was a program where they bring in people, based on what they said, they bring in people, and then they will get, if you are able, they will give you employment. But they always know it's a program that is short-lived. Okay? It is a contract on a contractual basis. Okay? Nobody can go to the bank because the bank will not accept anybody with a NICE program for 1 year to give you a loan. Only a credit union will give you a loan for within that, just for you to be able to pay within that year. Okay? Now that the government says, look, they are not renewing the contract, everybody gives the impression that this contract, this thing was a job these people had for life. But he knows where. You see, the thing about the Labour Party, they play all kind of scheme. The Labour Party have not gotten over the fact that they lost the election. All right? And that is the thing. They have no respect for the masses. They have not gotten over the fact that they have lost the election. You understand? People said they were tired of Kenny Anthony, and they bring in somebody who they feel who has vision. Give the man a chance and the government a chance to perform. I don't want to dictate to the man what to do as a prime minister. Anybody would go to Kenny Anthony and tell him what to put to come in the House to debate. Anybody, and an arrogant man like Kenny Anthony, anybody would tell him what to do. And you want to tell the man what to do? Tell Mr. Pierre to behave himself. And they have to accept the fact that the people bring in another government to govern the country. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for calling, Mr. Pierre.
First of all, the caller is very wrong. What he's saying is based on no fact. The opposition at the time never brought any motion in Parliament, which was denied. So that the first premise is wrong. The second premise that the NICE program wasn't a job for life. There is no job for life. The only job for life is death. So there's absolutely no job for life. And the third thing he says that at least you go for a loan for a year. So at least you'll be employed for a year and be able to go for a loan. If you're not working employed, you can go for no loan for no time. So the caller is just playing politics, and he has his opinion. So I want to advise him that government is not about a chance. Government is about doing the work for the people who elected you. But that's his opinion. I have no problem with that.
Good evening. Hello. Okay, we lost the caller, so we'll wait another call for my guest. You're watching Newsmaker Live on DBS Television. Let's go to the telephone lines. Let's see if we have another caller line. Hello, good evening. Please go ahead with your contribution, caller.
Hi, good evening.
Good evening to you, ma'am.
I wanted to ask a question, just not necessarily to Mr. Pierre, but I wanted to know, so what happens to the unemployment rate now? All of these people are unemployed. Does anybody know what the unemployment rate is right now? And where is the employment? To me, it's supposed to be the other way. I don't know if Mr. Pierre can answer that for me. What's happening in the country, because we have people being unemployed right now? What's the unemployment rate like? Thanks.
Thank you so much for calling.
Well, caller, the unemployment rate is measured by the Department of Statistics, and the last figures that the figures don't come every week or every month. The last set of figures show that unemployment had increased slightly. And these figures were up to the end of December, I think. And he said the unemployment rate had increased slightly. These were the last figures that came out.
Another call. Good evening.
Hello, good evening.
Hi, good evening to you, sir.
Hi. I've been listening to the whole thing about the STEP NICE program and everything. And I think it's very obvious, it is extremely obvious that what it was designed for and what it is actually doing. Because when the people are saying when you leave school, people ask for experience. The program goes on, I think it was for a year or however how long. Within that year, you get your experience, and then you move on into real work where you go and apply. And when somebody asks you if you have experience, you said yes, you have experience, you have training, so therefore you have an edge. So now you can be employed. So that goes on for a while, and then you get that opportunity. So then somebody else who maybe leaves school that the next year, they enter the program, and then they get the training, they get the experience, and it goes on like that. And like everybody's saying, government is not in the business of employing people. They facilitate the environment so that people can be employed, so that, so when they done with that, they can get a job. So it goes on, like I said, that's what it does. It's supposed to just go on and on and on. You don't go in there and expect NICE to employ you for the next 5 years, 10 years, and you make your living off the government. That's not the way. That's not the way. And nobody else. Let's just say they hire 2,000 people for 1 year. These 2,000 people get the experience. They go out into the workforce. Another 2,000 come in 1 year, get the experience, and then the companies out there can hire them and use their business skills to pay these people and not have the government paying the people. Because like somebody else was mentioning, there are a lot of well-off businesses that are flourishing, and the government was paying the nice staff for them. And that is just wrong.
No,
yes, you can give them the incentive.
Caller, that's not correct. The government was not paying. No. That's I want to correct. That's correct. On a factual thing, the government wasn't paying the salaries for them. That's not true. What they did, just to get the same training that you were speaking about, the employer, I think, paid 40% and the government paid 60%. For the same training. But
the government still should not be doing that.
No, to facilitate. It wasn't continuing. But you're right.
Exactly.
It was for training. Yeah, for training. Yes.
So the people who are, please let the people know that it's something for a time, so that they can understand that you, as somebody that they will listen to, come to them and tell them, people understand it was for a time. The time is up. Give somebody else a chance. Let somebody else get the chance to make the bread. I would appreciate if you just quell them like that, because right now the people are in uproar. Look, the lady said they will give it to them. We'll give it to them in the next election. Tell them, madam, it was for a time. So you cannot come and stick it to them in the next election. You now have the skill. Go and look for a job where the employer will pay 100% of your salary, and the government will not have to have that burden on their back to be paying your salary when you are working for a private institution. Please, I would appreciate you just explain it to the people like that, because what is really killing us here is ignorance. And the politicians, I am sad to say, they thrive on the ignorance of people. That right now they say, oh yes, we have them. You see how they're reacting to that step thing there, that nice thing there right now? We have them. Let's hit that iron and keep them angry till the next election. No, put the people straight. Educate the people. Let us stop using the ignorance of the people, of the lay people, to forward ourselves. I think I've said enough. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for calling, sir. We continue to take your calls on the program until 10 o'clock, at which time, once again, we end with the clip that peaked Newsmaker Live. Good evening.
Good evening.
Hi, good evening to you, sir.
Good evening. Good evening, Mr. Pierre.
Yes, sir. Hi.
Mr. Pierre, the NICE program, was it a contractual basis?
Okay. It's a NICE program because of its nature. Was the people who worked were given yearly contracts, yes.
Okay. Were the people, were any of them ever dismissed between...
Oh yes. Many of them contracts were renewed. Oh yeah, many.
Let me, Mr. Pierre.
No, but answer your question. You asked me, I say yes, that's it.
But you didn't. I haven't finished the question.
I'm sorry.
The wrong question.
But you asked the wrong question.
No, I'm asking you. You didn't listen to me. Between when the contract was last renewed and the 31st of March, was anybody sent home?
Yes.
On what grounds would it?
Well, for malperformance, for dishonesty, for not
okay,
for
fine.
Yeah.
But on the 31st of March, the contract ended.
Yes.
So the contract ended. So why the contract ended? It was not renewed. I mean, why making meetings with people, making people believe? These things are not right. We have to be honest.
What's not right, caller?
The contract will ended.
Yes.
The people fail to realize that the contract will ended.
Yes.
Because let me tell you, I don't know if you travel on public transport.
But do you know do you know that because the contracts were ended did not mean that the contracts would not continue. There would not have been a new contract. You see, caller, I tell you something. I want to listen to you, but we are being very, very. We are not being. I don't use the word honest. People are working, right? Now, when people are working, they have expectations. So the semantics about contract ended or not contract not ended the fact remains that there are over 1,000 people in St. Lucia. They were assistants for the. Now I'll tell you what. Do you know if you went to the immigration department this week Monday, there was utter confusion because the night workers were not there. They were providing the service, so the service to the people suffered. If you go to the schools, the principals will tell you, in fact, some principals have looked for private sources to employ these assistants. They were the IT assistants at schools that taught children how to use the computers to get into the technological age. These people lost their jobs. There were people who worked on the farms, help the farm worker, help the farmers. These people lose their jobs. The people who took care of the playing fields lost their jobs. There were coaches who lost their job. So I don't think what we have to deal with is the fact that 1,000 or 2,000 people lost jobs when they were already employed and they lost an income. The defining factor is that they lost an income and they have to take care of their children. So the semantics of the contract and the good of it is not the fact is these people are unemployed, and it's not a good thing to be unemployed, and people are annoyed because unemployed is a straight case, and the government handled it badly because what the government is trying to do is trying to spin it on contracts and this and that, but the fact is these people are out of job, contract or not. Caller, what say you, caller?
Mr. B, you know what, in all this contracting, you know what I don't understand?
Yes, my
Timothy?
brother.
You find that maybe a PS will be given a contract, will be on contract. At the end of each contract period, they get the end of contract gratuity. These poor people, at the end of the contract, that's it. Why? Why there's a law for one set and another law for another? You know? And Mr. Pierre, you see, when the people talk about labor and thing in that contracting, if you travel on public transport and sometimes these nice people, you know what you hear they say? They just wanted to put their people. So what do you gather from that? These people make some statements in public, and you know, like, if they wanted to put their people, it means that it was the other people, and now it is these people. These things have to stop in this country.
Yes,
it must be a level playing field for everybody.
I agree.
You know, and I guess that thing worries me. That contracting, certain people get contracts at the end of each contract, they get end of contract gratuity and whatever. These people, they give their contracts, they get nothing. Why there's a contract law for some and not for the other?
Because the reason why, and you're making a good point, they got no contract. The reason why is because the NICE program was a direct intervention into the market to help the unemployment situation. That's what it was. That's a difference. It wasn't like a regular contract of service where you work and you get a gratuity. So if you had to pay NICE workers that, you had to pay them that, then where would you get the money to renew the contracts or to employ new ones? You understand? So that's a difference. But you're right, that's a difference.
After they get a lump sum salary when they get the contract, they still get, where they're going to get the money to pay them end of contract gratuity and renew their contract again.
Well, exactly. That's a question I ask you. And that's a problem. You see, caller, NICE was an economic tool.
I'm not talking about NICE now. I'm
you talk about other things.
The other people,
okay.
Like the PhDs,
well, these are, I understand what you're saying. These
the
are
directors.
You're right. But that's
where if they can get money, they give them an end of contract gratuity. Sometimes it costs maybe the end of contract will be close to maybe over $100,000, and the contract is automatically renewed.
No, it's not automatic. No, not
when
automatic.
I say automatic, most of the times the contract is renewed.
Yeah, but you see, caller, you're right. But these are two different things.
I listen to budget. I don't hear no budget allocations for these expenses.
Yes, they are. Yes, they are. When a civil servant is given a contract, the contract says at the end of the month you get 20%, 5% of your earnings. Your net, 20% of your earnings, not your gross earnings, but your salary, not your allowances. That's in. Yeah.
So if somebody gets a contract making me $15,000 a month for 4 years, that's about 12,560.
The contracts are normally for 3 years.
For 3 years. Okay, $20,000 or $10,000, that's $120 a year. That's $360,000 for the 3 years.
20%, yeah, that's about $60,000.
20% of that is about $100-something thousand.
No, $60,000, about 60,000. Yeah. But caller, these are the terms of engagement. But what I want to tell you is that these are two different things. One of them is a contract for us to provide a certain service, etc. The other
I
one is
understand.
to provide the service, but to have a direct impact on unemployment. That's the difference, my brother. But
Okay,
you're right.
sir.
But you're right. I understand what you're saying.
Thank you so much for calling.
Okay.
I understand what you're saying.
Appreciate the exchange there between yourself and Mr. Philip JP as we await another call. Good evening. Go ahead, please, with your contribution.
Hello.
Hi, good evening to you, caller.
Good evening, Mr. Pierre.
Good evening to you, sir.
Good evening. Yeah.
Mr. Pierre, my question to you is like, why you never challenge the leadership of the party? Tell us why.
That's the
Because
question?
you have been there, and you've been there even longer than Kenny Anthony. You understand me?
Yes.
But you have some kind of thing in you, some kind of fear. I notice that. You're very fearful. Why you
Look,
never
caller, don't you think, instead of fearful, don't you think it's tactical?
No, why you
Caller,
never challenge
Because
the leadership of the party?
he still ended up being the political leader of the SLP.
If you know my political history, you know I'm fearless in politics. When I started my politics, I ran against one of the most powerful politicians in the country. I ran against him, and I was second. Because I chose never to challenge the leadership of the party. Well, that's your opinion. That's your opinion.
For you to be where you are right now.
That's your opinion, my brother, and I respect it. No, I did not.
And I'm telling you, there's no democracy in this party.
I don't know that.
Hold on. You will see all type of halikas in the United Workers' Party for leadership. This is democracy, my brother.
Okay, that's your opinion.
You see, you were very fearful of Dr. Kenny Anthony.
That's your opinion.
Yeah, you never challenged the leadership of the party.
That is
saying that you don't possess the qualities of a leader.
What is the relationship between the two of them?
No, I'm just telling you.
No, what's the relationship to possess the challenges?
These are the qualities of a leader. You must possess foresight and initiative. You don't have this thing in you.
The qualities of a leader is you must challenge the leadership.
Yeah, you must possess that thing.
Okay,
foresight.
so who did Darren Sammy challenge to be leader of the United? Who did Darren Sammy challenge to captain the West Indies team?
Mr. Pierre, good night, and you take good care of yourself.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Okay.
I appreciate your prayers, but I appreciate the prayers. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. We'll take a final call for my guest, and then we'll take some final comments from you, Mr. Pierre. Final call. Good evening. Newsmaker Live, you're on the air. Hello, good evening. Hi, good evening to you. Go ahead, please.
I support one of the callers who asked Mr. Pierre to just come honest with the people, man, and tell the people that the program, the NICE program, was not a long-term program. Be honest with the people. And
Did I ever say, or caller, did I ever tell you it was a long-term program?
No, but you have
No, here's what I said. Here's what I said. Here is what I said. And you want to listen to what I said?
That's what you said.
Here's what I said.
It was a one-year program.
Here's what I said. You want to hear what I said? I said that, but you're not listening to me. If you'd heard what I said, you'd not be saying what you're saying. Because you're not hearing what I said.
Mr. Pierre, you have repeated that many times now.
Well, just hold on, caller. You'll be very brief. Go ahead.
What I said, the people were given contracts for 1 year, and these contracts were renewed. And this year they're not renewed, and the people are unemployed. That's a fact.
Yeah, but you are renewing it to the same.
That was not a question. The people it was renewed for was not the question. What they been asking me? What?
That's what they've been asking you.
Caller, please. What have they been asking me? What have they been asking me?
But why we agree?
Yes.
You said a 1 year contract
was renewed.
But there are persons who called the last show,
yes,
previous shows, admitting that they have worked for the 4 years and 5 years.
And that's bad. You think that's a bad thing?
No.
What's
it's
it?
Not bad.
What's it?
It's good for them. That's
exactly.
Why they're complaining.
Exactly. So
because
would you,
right now,
if you were working and you lost your job, if you're working and you lost your job, want to be? If you lost your job, want to be complaining too?
But you're missing the point.
If you lost your job,
Why
what you been
didn't you
complaining
make it
to?
available to other person?
Because
Okay, caller. Thank you so
cannot-
much.
Because
Okay.
you can't employ everybody, caller.
Let's take the final comments from you, Mr. Pierre.
With the issue of the NICE program is an issue of people who have lost their jobs, people who have their loans to pay. A caller said it was only in the credit unions, albeit like that, and the people have the debts, they have the children going to school, and they are hurting. And no matter all the semantics of 1 year not renewed, the fact is there are 2,000 people who are out of jobs and they are hurting. And we can sit wherever we want, in our drawing rooms, on our television, and say whatever we want. But he who feels it most knows it, and it's a duty of a government to try its best when they can to cause these people not to be suffering. And that's the long story of the story. And what we should do is we should be empathizing with these people. We should be looking for ways and means of creating employment for them instead of getting to the semantics of 1 year and not permanent, etc. That's the reality. And we are very concerned that these people are out of jobs.
Thank you so much, Mr. Pierre, for being my guest on this evening's Newsmaker Live. As always, thank you so much for watching the broadcast and contributing via your calls. If it's Wednesday, it's Newsmaker Live. Time now for the clip that peaked. Once again, that's the broadcast. Thank you so much for watching us. A very good evening. My name is Timothy Polio. Goodbye.